Okay, welcome back to our study on the afterlife, what God does with the material and immaterial part of man as time progresses. Today we're going to look at an interesting topic that was introduced by Jesus Christ himself during his incarnation. The idea of eternal fire was not well known in the Old Testament, and Jesus in his teaching brought forth a concept, an example, an illustration to emphasize in the mind of his hearers the importance of knowing God as your Savior and not face eternity in hell, using the idea of just how tragic it is to not be saved. And let's move on to what Jesus had to say here. He uses a word called Gehenna. Now, if you're using Strong's number, this is 1067 in the Strong's numbering. But in the King James Version, it is often recorded as hell. And we're confused by that because other verses, Hades is also recorded, translated by the same word. So we really need to separate these words out because it is so very important that Jesus used this word Gehenna, while the King James Version does not clearly show the imperative of what this word is. So he introduces this word into his teaching, and we first see it in Matthew chapter 5:22. And I'll play this here.
Matthew 5:22 But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council, but whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hell 1067 fire.
All right, I put the Strong's number in there, but he put it in the King James Version, it says hell. But if you use the word Gehenna, it says here, in danger of Gehenna fire. It's an adjective to fire. And I want to play here, and I looking things up because I don't speak Greek, and most of us do not. We have the helps in Bible software and stuff, and I'm going to play here the definition that I get in my dictionary for this word.
Hell is the place of the future punishment called Gehenna or Gehenna of fire. This was originally the valley of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the city were cast out and burned, a fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction.
So here we have a vivid illustration that Jesus used to get to the heart of what he was trying to teach his people. He wanted to get people to understand what he was talking about here, why or what judgment was going to be like if they refused to believe, if they took a wide road instead of the narrow road. They're going to the result would be tragic for them. So what he used was an illustration that they could get a picture in their mind. And what he used was a place, and I'll call it the city dump. It was the place where they disposed of the refuse of the city. And what they did there is burn that refuse. And as there was a constant supply of refuse in the city, it was a place that never stopped burning. If you went to this valley, as it mentioned in our definition here, it would be it would be burning all the time. There would never be a time when the fire was put out. It was never ending. So this term he used was a term that referred to that constant burning. So when Jesus uses the word Gehenna, he is illustrating a fire that never goes out, and he brought that vivid picture to the eyes of his hearers here as well. And we do that all the time with descriptive words. Just for example, somebody says they met his Waterloo. All right, now we know that was it goes back to Napoleon, and actually I have a little information in here. Here is the definition of what actually happened at Waterloo.
The Battle of Waterloo was fought on Sunday, June 18, 1815 near Waterloo in present-day Belgium. The defeat at Waterloo put an end to Napoleon's rule as Emperor of the French.
So we use the word Waterloo, and everybody understands that you're losing. You're Waterloo. That is your losing battle. Uh, I know you used to be in school called if a classroom was out, out of out of line, they'd say it's Bedlam in here, and again that refers to a mental asylum that was in Britain. Or you talk about Vandals. Vandals come from a Germanic tribe that came down when the Roman Empire was falling, and they just literally destroyed everything in their path. They had no concept of beauty. Beautiful mosaic art was placed in floors in Spain, and they would just come and smash them to pieces. So if somebody comes and breaks your fence at night, we say it was vandalized. So we get a picture of these tribes that were utterly destructive. And Jesus did the very same thing here. He gets a picture in their mind's eye of what burning was. Someone who heard Jesus speak of this word, used this word in this conversation, would would be able to understand the point that Jesus was trying to get across. Now, this word Gehenna in Scripture is used only 12 times. 11 of them Jesus uses it himself. The other time it was used in James, where he used it to talk about how much of a fire the tongue could start, and we can start trouble with our tongue that can't not be stopped, and that was the point of using the word there as well. Um, so the word shows torment, and that will result from dying in sin. Let me play this passage here for us as well. This is from Matthew chapter 10.
Matthew 10:28 And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. But rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. 1067.
Okay, we see here. It clearly says God's judgment. It's the condition that the that an individual will be in if they are sent to this place as an unbeliever. Their soul will be destroyed here. And when we mean by destroyed, it does not mean annihilation. It means uh, loss of well-being. It's the soul, when a soul perishes, it doesn't go away. It just goes into everlasting fire. So that there is no end to this. There's no hope once you're in this condition. Let me play another passage here from Matthew 23.
Matthew 23:15 Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, ye make him twofold more the child of hell. 1067 than yourselves. Jesus used the vivid picture of the condition of the place of judgment for the wicked to describe wickedness that had developed in the teachers of Israel.
So he uses this as an illustration, bringing them to the idea of eternal fire. Let me do again Matthew chapter 23. Again, he uses the word here.
Matthew 23:33 Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? 1067.
Again, the damnation of hell, we don't really get the picture when we use the word hell in the King James, but when you go and put that in, the damnation of Gehenna, the damnation of fire, fire that will never go out. Jesus is emphasizing here the utter destruction or the utter terror of what's going to be in the afterlife if a person is not a believer. Let's go to Mark chapter 9. Again, we see this word.
Mark 9:43 And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed, than having two hands to go into hell. 1067. Into the fire that never shall be quenched.
Here we have the word again. Jesus is using the word now, not hell as in the King James Version, but in Gehenna, go into fire that will never go out. And then he repeats it and says, into fire that will never be quenched. Jesus is getting across to his hearers that to go into anything but at his time it was the Abraham's bosom. We don't want to. He didn't want people to go to where the rich man went. We saw from Luke chapter 16. He's saying that place is going to have torment, and that was only the temporary abode. There's a time coming, which we'll see in a further lesson, that there's a place of eternal fire, particularly where we talked about in uh, in Matthew chapter 25, verse 41. So there are other verses that show this as well. That you can, if you have a concordance, go look up those all 11 verses that Jesus used to get this point across that it is a terrible thing to end up in the lake of fire. It is not just it's not a country club there. It is going to be um, a place of torment for all eternity. And I mentioned the other. Um, Let me actually, I'll play this verse. This is the only other place that this word is used that's not used by Jesus himself.
James 3:6 And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity, so is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature. And it is set on fire of hell 1067.
Again, the fire of hell. What James is saying here, the Lord's brother, by the way, is saying once you start this fire with trouble with your tongue, you can't stop it. And that was Jesus' point as well in his teaching. Uh, Here we have, again, we have the warning of the tongue here. So Gehenna, it seems to me it's more of a descriptive term than a place itself. Jesus is saying what you are facing, the quality of what you will be facing. This is what you're going to be in. We're not told at this point where Gehenna is. Um, it's just something that will occur. Um, Again, he did not say what this place was, but we do know, of course, there is a place. We'll see that as time goes on here. Um, Again, look at Matthew chapter 20. I have Matthew chapter 20, verse 33.
Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell?
Again, he's not saying where this uh, eternal torment will take place, but again, we're going to see that as time goes on. He's just talking about what it's going to be like to be there, how severe it's going to be there. Matthew 25:41, which we have used several times before.
Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels.
So when Jesus was speaking of Gehenna, he was speaking of what it was like. Now he tells us in this verse where that place is. Uh, Here we have what the place that was made for the devil and his angels. When they rebelled in heaven, God created a place for judgment for them, and it is a place that has the quality of Gehenna, a fire that never goes out. So now he's bringing his his hearers to understand, bringing these two concepts together. Gehenna is the quality of what the lake of fire created for the devil and his angels is like here as well. Now, here, uh, as you look at the context of where he gave this verse, it is the sheep and goat judgments on the excuse me, on the second coming of Christ. When Christ comes back, he's going to take all the living souls on the earth and separate them into two groups. And one is going to be the believers group, and the other will be the unbelieving group. And let me play here Matthew chapter 25, verse 31, and I think it's 32. Let me play that.
31 When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. 32 And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. MT 20.
So we have here, this is the context. What Jesus is going to do here is when he comes to his second coming, he's going to take believers in one group, unbelievers in another. And we know that the sheep are the believers, and they will go into the kingdom, and the unbelievers are the goats. And he's saying to them that when he speaks of the goats, what does he say about them in verse 46?
And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. Matthew 25:46.
So we see here when this judgment comes at his second coming, the unbelievers are assigned to this lake of fire, and the believers will be ushered into the kingdom in flesh and blood form. Uh, But when they go here is not clearly defined here. We definitely know that the believers are going to go into the kingdom, flesh and blood, and they will populate the kingdom and raise families, and uh, there will be a kingdom under the rule and reign of Jesus Christ Himself. But these goats, these unbelievers, are assigned to the lake of fire. When they go there, I am not sure. It is just my opinion that they will go to Hades and wait till the final white throne judgment, which we'll see in Revelation chapter 20, and they will wait there until that time, while the believers go into heaven, excuse me, goes into the kingdom, and they will live in flesh and blood bodies until, and of course, they will die eventually as well, or brought to the eternal state. I'm not sure how that happens, um, but they will go into the kingdom as flesh and blood as we are, people still with sin natures and raising families in the kingdom time as well. When they will be glorified, Scripture's not clear on that as well. So this is an interesting thing. Jesus brings us a concept of the of everlasting fire, fire that is never quenched. He took an example of something that they would know in their life day by day, that they could take a walk out to the edge of the city of Jerusalem. They could see everlasting fire. They could smell the smoke. They could feel the heat if they wanted to do that. And they know that that's a fire that was never quenched. And Jesus is saying, if you are not a believer and you face uh, uh, if you face a death of the unbeliever, you will end up in something like this. You will end up in a fire that will never go out. You will have you will have torment that goes on for all eternity. So Jesus brought quite a concept here that I think was not understood by the people of his time, and he opened their eyes to this, so they would understand that there was a real need for them to believe. And we'll talk about that a little later in a further lesson, why Jesus so emphasized this word. So in our next lesson, we will look at the book of Revelation. We'll start sorting this out a little bit more. Uh, we will see where this actual lake of fire that Jesus is speaking of is. And I don't think he uses the word exactly as lake of fire. We don't see that in those exact words until the book of Revelation. So we will see the sorting out of these people here in the coming lesson here as well, and we'll see what will happen and when it will happen. So thank you for listening into the lesson today. I hope you got something out of it. We look forward to uh, the lake of fire in our next lesson.